show. I am Randy Jeffers, and we are live from the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. And we have a really special guest today. We have Mr. Hal Jones, all the way from Madison, Georgia.
Madison, Georgia.
Yeah,
All
Atlanta area.
That's right.
Well, welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you. It's an honor and privilege. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, Hal is the president and CEO of a brand new telecom company, as well as a couple of older companies been around for a long time.
Yeah, a long time. I'm an old guy.
Yeah, but you have a brand new company called Divine Wireless, right?
Divine Wireless. That's correct.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about that and what you do. And,
Okay.
And there may be some people out there that might have some need of your services.
We certainly hope so. That's the
Absolutely.
plan.
So let's talk about the telecom business. You've been in that business for a long, long time, I know.
Since I was 15 years old, actually. So
Really?
It's been a long time.
That's 100 years probably, huh? for you?
That's almost 40 years, yeah. So it's 39 years exactly. So
Well, I just kid with him because we go back a decade or so.
That's
so
right.
We've known each other a long time.
I think, yeah, we differ. I say it's 12 years, you say it's 11 years. So somewhere in between 11 and 12 years. That's right.
It's been a few years.
That's
yeah.
right.
But you've done a lot of things in the telecom industry. You've certainly seen a lot of changes.
Yeah, I was the old cordboard guy. I grew up and our family had an answering service, and so we went from the Lily Tomlin cordboards to concentrators, and it's been interesting. Yeah, things have changed quite a bit since I first started dabbling in the communication business.
Absolutely. What's one of the biggest changes that you've seen?
I think the biggest change is the fact that we used to service a household, and now inside of that household there could be anywhere from 5 to 7 to 8 devices. So it used to be one thing to the household, and now it's so many different things in the household. Almost everything's connected now. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Even your house is connected, right?
Correct. Smart houses, things within the house. I mean, the thermostat, when to turn the lights on, everything. So it's really cool. It's just really interesting.
So, as if you needed something else to do, you have just opened up a brand new venture called Divine Wireless.
Divine Wireless, that is correct.
Uh-huh.
So basically, Divine Wireless is we specialize in wholesale products from the 4 major carriers. We sort of focus on the 2 GSM carriers, AT&T and T-Mobile. And since we have some neat wholesale B2B products, we like to come alongside other companies and see how we can either have a benefit package for their employees, their members. I do have the opportunity with a couple of multi-level marketing or direct sales companies, so it's pretty unique, and they can either do it as a commissionable item or as a benefit. Most choose the benefit route, and so it's pretty unique.
So this works with pretty much any organization, right?
That's correct. Could be any organization.
How many members do you need to have to make it work?
Well, I mean, you could have just a few employees. If you want to just do it for your employees, then we can certainly help you and try to create a plan that is unique and specific to your needs. We have a few other items that we specialize in. I specialize in data, so we have some data devices that we use as your internet backup. So we have a device that would connect to your existing internet. If your internet goes down, it automatically has a fail-safe switchover, and you never know that you lost your DSL or your cable or whatever connection. You do not know you lost internet and you were using the cellular internet connection for a while, and then you're back up and it switches back over to your normal internet. So it's
Very
pretty cool.
cool.
Yeah, it's very good. Very good.
So if there's let's just say there's a church or
Yep.
some kind of an fraternal organization or
Yep.
something, and they have a number of members, and this is tailor-made for them.
We're trying to tailor make a program that we could take a nonprofit, you mentioned a church or a school, and instead of it being a constant fundraiser, their members could get their services from Divine Wireless, and every month the organization would get a tenth or a tithe back to the organization, the church or the school or whatever.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of the thought process around that.
Now let's talk about, you mentioned MLMs, so
Yes.
multi-level marketing companies,
Yes, sir.
or network marketing
Yes, sir.
companies. So how does it work for a network marketing company?
A network marketing company makes a choice, and they can either use it as a benefit. So to buy the service, you have to be a member or an
Right.
affiliate member of the company. So you go into your back office or whatever the system that they provide you, and then there would be a link. And from the link, you can choose services there that are exclusive, built specifically for that group. And that's all there is to it. So it could be a benefit, or they could build in their own. We give them the plan pricing, and then they choose whether they want to do it as a benefit or a commissionable item.
So they could raise the price a little bit.
They could.
That actually would be a
They
profit
could.
center for them.
That's correct. We give the pricing, including 24/7 customer service support, which is done here in the United States. Everything is taken care of. The only thing that they have to do is market. That's it. The people order the SIM cards online. The SIM cards are automatically shipped. It's tied into the USPS system. They get the tracking numbers automatic. It is literally a aim and click service, and everything else is done for them.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So for the company itself, then it's white labeled, private labeled.
That's correct. The thought behind Divine Wireless is that we would power it. It would be our resale agreement with the carriers, and we would power it, and then they could brand it for themselves. That is correct. I personally think it's better to use the carrier SIM cards, not try to play with the SIM cards. I mean, if I'm getting a T-Mobile plan, it certainly looks better to get a T-Mobile SIM card. If I'm getting an AT&T plan, it's certainly better to get an AT&T SIM card. I mean, it is the exact same service. It's just at a benefit to the company or to the organization.
So let's talk about pricing. Is it considerably less, about the same price, more, or how does that work?
If we focus on the T-Mobile plan, for instance, the T-Mobile plan would be equivalent to going directly to T-Mobile, taxes and fees and customer service and everything included, if you had several phones. So if you had 5 phones on the same plan, your price would be X. Well, our plan is the same whether you have 1 phone or 5 phones. If you get more than 4 phones, you may save a little money at the carrier, but it's not benefiting your organization or your company. So that's where the double advantage is. So the pricing is very comparable to walking into a store. But it's based on having multiple phones instead of just 1 phone. So that's why we do it. And then we have data plans that aren't even available at the carrier. So that's another thing, because most of the organizations, the MLMs, etc., the data or the tablet plan is actually what moves your business and increases your sales, or that's the theory.
Yeah. Well, I know you're in town this week. You moved out of God's country to come to even better God's country.
That's correct. That's
warmer
correct.
At least.
That's correct. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful here.
Yeah.
So I'm here for a dual purpose. Had many friends to see. My wife is actually in town taking a class this week, and so she's in school, and legitimate school. I'm teased all the time. I have to wait for the school bus to get home for my wife to get off the school bus, because she is younger than I and much more beautiful than I. But she's actually in class this week, so it is true that I am waiting for her to get out of school. So.
Well, that's great, and I think you have another purpose. You were here working with a network marketing company.
That is correct. I was very fortunate to be introduced to the Chels Wellness Group here, and they're doing an event, I think, 2 weeks from this past Monday on the 28th and the 29th here in town, and she asked me if I would help her with her founding members and I forget what she called the other ones, but I think the board of directors and the founding members is what it is. And so there's 150 of them, and she asked if we would do something special for them. So I came to town, and we've created something pretty special for them. So she's given away an iPhone and a tablet, an iPad to her founding members and board members. So that's what I'm here for. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, I know things like this don't just happen with one person. You must have a big team around you.
We have a very strong team behind us. There's a group in New York that does a lot of our back office and our customer support. Very proud to call them our affiliates or our partners. Although they don't own stock in our company, we don't own stock in theirs. We are strategic partners, and love those guys. Give a shout out to Teltech Technologies. They're amazing. And then my physical partner, or the guy that owns half of the company, is a young man from Philadelphia. He's out of New Jersey, but he lives in Philadelphia, and his name is Stephen Magnotti. And he's a young, vibrant, very outgoing personality, and he thinks outside the box. And so very proud to call him my partner. So.
Well, very good. Well, very good. Well, it's always exciting to have something new going on, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think if we just sit still, what happens,
Yeah.
So don't want to let the moth grow or something. It's pretty cool. So.
I think they're very exciting. So, so tell us about Atlanta. What's it like in Atlanta, living in?
Well, as I told a gentleman on the phone a little while ago, I met a gentleman telephonically. Nobody lives in Atlanta anymore, do they? Just teasing. But I grew up on the east side of Atlanta. I was born and raised there, and spent some time in the military. And then once I got out of the military, I moved back home. And so I do call Georgia and the Atlanta area my home. Moved to the wonderful town of Greensboro so many years ago. I have two lovely daughters, and they're 32 and 27 now.
Wow.
Have 3 grandchildren. So I've got a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, fixing to be 4-year-old, and then a 1-year-old grandson. So 2 granddaughters, 2 amazing son-in-laws, and then I've got a little grandson who's pretty cool. So very blessed in that. So, but we moved to Greensboro, Georgia, resort area, when my children were very young, and then I've sort of migrated a little closer back to Atlanta now, to a small town called Madison, Georgia, and voted best small town USA a couple different times, and really am proud to call Madison, Georgia home. So,
You know, I just love the South. I love listening to people that are from the South, and it's not very often you get to hear people, especially out here in the West Coast, it's talking about fixing.
Yeah, we're fixing.
Fixing
round
to do
to
this.
it. Yeah, my dad used to carry something in his pocket. It just said to it, but it was round. And he said, so if you think you're fixing or around to it, get around to it. Yeah, it's kind of fun. So, yeah, we're sort of backwards. For sure.
No, it's a pretty cool area back there. So you are a happily married guy. You have this gorgeous wife, and life just can't get better, huh?
Well, I like to say I'm the most blessed man on earth, for sure. I do.
Second blessed, maybe.
Well, we can argue about that. No, I love a person who would say that, but I am truly blessed. My wife, Leslie Clark Jones, she is just fabulous, the love of my life. We've been married now 14 plus years. It's just been magnificent. So
Absolutely. Well, let's do a little commercial for Divine Wireless, and then I want to talk to you more about Leslie and your relationship and some of those things, because you really live out the things you talk about. And I want to hear a little bit about that. But Divine Wireless, now, if somebody is interested,
yes, sir,
and they want to do what some of these network marketing companies have done, or they have an organization, it could be a Boy Scout group, it could be any kind of organization.
Yes, sir.
How do they get a hold of you?
Easiest way is they can send me an email at hal@divinewireless.com, or they can call me 706-347-2222. So
okay, let's do that one more time slowly.
706-347 2222.
2222. So that's easy to remember.
4 T's, that's right.
Okay, and you pick up the phone all the time yourself?
Lots of times. That's our sales. That's our sales line, so I do catch that as much as I can. So
okay, excellent. Well, that's great. I know there's a lot of people probably watching. We have people watch from all over the country, and I'm sure there's some people out there that would just love.
We certainly hope so. It's pretty exciting. Wireless is still a buzz, and we've been very fortunate to come alongside of a lot of good organizations, and sometimes we can do all of it and we can help them with everything. Sometimes we can only help them with a small piece, but it's always fun to at least see their vision, their passion, their mission, and see if we can do something to help them. So it's kind of cool.
Now, as I understand it, you have access to all the major carriers, right?
We do. We have connection with T-Mobile, and we have direct connection with AT&T. We have associates that we work with all the time that have direct connection with Verizon. We don't do a whole lot with Sprint, but we can do some things on the Sprint network as well. So
now, I've heard you talk a lot about T-Mobile. You they have a nice soft place in your heart, do they?
Well, it's just one of those things. I think the uncarrier, the rebellious, sort of disruptive place in the thing, it just I don't know, I guess it resonates more with me and my personality, and I truly believe that if you have coverage in a T-Mobile area and you don't use T-Mobile, then you're giving your money away. That's how I truly believe. It's because of the pricing, the speed of the network, the dependability of the network, the ease. There's just so many different, there's just so many unique, disruptive things that they started that the other guys kind of followed after, I guess. And I like that. So I really am a big T-Mobile fan. So and they've outperformed some of the other products that we've tried to put in the marketplace. So,
Well, I know some of the some of the other carriers have always been known as having a little bit better quality. Have they pretty much all gotten to be a bit closer to the same, or?
well, I would say in today's environment, I would say that Verizon, because of the way Verizon built their network, they bought a lot of smaller networks, and Verizon is, if you read the information that is available about the network, so they do have better coverage in some of the rural areas of the United States. And then, depending on where you're looking, you got AT&T and T-Mobile sort of neck and neck. And the feeling is, I guess, is that by the end of the year, maybe T-Mobile may surpass some of the things that AT&T can do. But it's all preference. It all comes down to personal preference and what works best for you. What works best for me may not necessarily work best for you. And so. But as far as that goes, the statistics are what they are, and they pretty much all cover the same number of Americans. It's just dependent on that rural part of America is where maybe one surpasses the other.
So there's some towns where one carrier will be dominant,
Absolutely,
more dominant.
absolutely.
Okay.
And in my area where I grew, I'm in the middle of nowhere, Georgia. Sometimes AT&T is the best solution in the North Georgia mountains, and other times, Verizon is the best, and other times T-Mobile is the best. So it just really depends on that particular area that you're trying to coverage.
I know that you call yourself a redneck sometimes.
You might be a redneck if, yeah, there you go.
And as I understand it, where you live out in the middle, you called it nowhere.
Middle of nowhere, Georgia. That's right. So.
Yeah, so you actually have landlines still, right?
Yeah, we do. We actually do. No, there is actually cable inside the city limits. There's cable. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Cable, yeah. Very interesting. We live 2.5 miles south of the expressway, and the neighborhood in which we lived for 2.5 years had DSL. And that's pretty good.
Yeah.
The unfortunate part of the neighborhood is that for 2.5 years, all of the D-marks or all of the spots for the DSL was full, and to this day is still full. So the first few people who built in the neighborhood, they have high-speed internet, and the others have, just pick and choose, get what you can get. So it's kind of interesting. And the county, that I live in, they're looking at spending close to $60 million to make internet accessible to all of the families or the households in our county, which kind of strange to me, but that's kind of the rural America that I'm talking about.
Now, are they doing that with satellites, or how do they do it?
They're talking about building some sort of a Wi-Fi network for the whole county. So it's interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting.
So
that's amazing. Well, let's do another quick commercial. So the company's name is
Divine Wireless.
Divine Wireless, and they can ask for Hal Jones.
Hal, just
H-A-L
at divinewireless.com or 706-347-2222.
Okay. Well, you mentioned your lovely wife, and let's talk about that, because I know you have an amazing story, and let me just turn over you and let you tell your story.
I think I have more of an ugly story than I do an amazing story, but I'm just truly blessed. My wife is a preacher's kid. I think y'all have that in common.
We do.
So she's a preacher's kid, just amazing parents. My father-in-law was a businessman, very good businessman, and got called into the ministry sort of late. I think he was close to 40, or he was 40, I think, when he was called into the ministry. And so he left the business world. He left a pretty neat job with, I can't think of the name right now, but he was called into the ministry, and then they moved after seminary. They moved to the little town of Union Point, Georgia, and he did that for several years, and then he was called into the addiction and alcohol and drug addiction. And he was the CEO of Penfield Christian Home, and that's how I met this family. I met the Clark family. I had a half brother that had an addiction problem, and he went through Penfield, and I met the Clark family, and through that I met and came to know the whole family. And so many years later, I went through a divorce and fell in love with this amazing young lady named Leslie, and we dated for a while. Our dates consisted of church and counseling, because I needed lots of both. And but I thought I knew God my whole life. I was raised in church, and I think I've told you before, I've seen so many miracles, but I had no idea, I know what the Word of God said, but I had no idea who the God of the Word was. And so I was 40 years old and met Him experientially, learned about grace experientially, and my life literally turned right side up when I was 40 years old. And married Leslie shortly thereafter. I think 6 or 7 months later, we were married, and we've been married 14 plus years, and every day has been just absolutely bliss. It's been fun, and I know there's storms raging and there's things that go on and life happens, but it's just been so easy and so amazing. So
One of the things I admire about you, Hal, is how you talk about Leslie, when she's not around, and that says a lot about someone.
Some people say I'm a heretic. I mean, and I take that to live, but it's sort of to me, and I'm just saying, just to me, she is the embodiment, right, of my personal salvation, and that may be heretical, but the bottom line is, I mean, the whole word is about, it began basically with a marriage, and it's going to end with a marriage celebration, right? And that we as believers are the bride, to this wonderful groom. And so I don't think I might take it a little too far, but I think anything that we can sing, over him, we should be able to sing over our spouses. And I truly do cherish every moment. She's the best friend that I ever had. She's everybody's best friend, as you know, you've met her. Everybody she meets seems to think that she's their best friend. I truly love her, and I'm blessed.
So there's a spiritual element to your relationship.
Very much so, very intimate. I truly had an issue receiving my whole life, receiving a compliment, receiving love, receiving anything, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but I had most relationships were at arm's length. And for some reason, I experienced a love from the Clark family, and Leslie in particular. I experienced a love I didn't really know anything about, and I wanted to know more about that. And so it's just been, I don't know how to say it. I learned through this walk and journey with her that I needed to learn intimacy from, a female. Right, and so I truly learned intimacy from her. I mean, right. We've learned since that men spell intimacy SEX, and women spell intimacy COMMUNICATION, communication. And I learned that intimacy is somewhere in between that, right? And so we have FaceTime. We've had FaceTime before FaceTime was a phone thing, but I've learned that intimacy is amazing, and it's helped me with intimacy with our Heavenly Father, my Papa there too, so it's been cool.
Very good. Well, there's a lot of people that are hurting out there, and I'm sure we have people that are watching us right now that either live or they'll watch us from a social media platform that this will get archived on. But there's so many people hurting, and if someone's out there that's hurting right now, maybe they're in a relationship that they think it's a dead end, and there's no hope, and they don't know what to do, and what advice would you have for them?
Well, I tell you, and it's just for me. I like to say it for me, but the blessings that I experience aren't just for me, right? God's Word promises that He's no respecter of person. So what He'll do for me, He'll do for you, or He'll do for someone else. But the greatest thing I ever learned about relationship was, and I was crying out, and I just really wanted to know, I assumed also that there were certain relationships in my life, or relationships that I wanted in my life, that were doomed from the beginning, right? And I know what doom and gloom looks like, trust me. Yeah. But I learned from Papa that all relationships that he's not the center of are doomed, right? And I thought, and I was taught, that relationships, are 50-50, right? That's what I've been taught my whole life. And but I learned from Papa that actually a relationship is 300%. And he gave 100%, and you give 100%, and I give 100%, and that would be a perfect relationship. Now, there are times I can't give you 100%, and you may have to give more to help me. But if you continue to give more from me, he's in the center. So if you're giving 120, you're having to pass that to help me. And if you continue to do that, who's going to get hurt, me or you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's just for me. I look at it that way, and I learned the hard way, I guess, about relationships. But amazing. God restored every relationship possible. He's restored in my life.
Wow.
And I tried to destroy a bunch of them. There was a 3-year period, but yeah.
So you're back on track,
I hope so.
on a new track.
I'm on a very fun journey. That's for sure.
Well, I love how you describe that. I think that's fabulous and wonderful. But it's more of an overall 50,000 square foot view of it. But in terms of, let's say somebody's out there and they're in a situation where they haven't perfected their relationship and they're not where you and Leslie are.
Right.
What kind of things on a day-to-day basis, besides the spiritual things, what kind of things can you do to sort of get back on track?
Well, I really think it's easy. And in fact, I live most of my life, and most relationships were like, hi, I'm Hal Jones. What do you do? And so I lived most of my life as a human doer, right? And then I learned that we weren't human doers, we were human beings, right? We just have to be. And so I guess the realization, right, that there is an amazing, loving, wonderful Papa who created us for one reason, that was for a relationship. It just really doesn't take a whole lot. There's not a lot of effort involved in having a relationship with someone else or having a relationship with Him. It's just really not that hard. I've had the opportunity to minister to people walking through addiction, people walking through, messed up, marriage, people who were in prison. I mean, I shared recently, and I've shared this many times, that that people in prison, at least they know the walls, right? That they know the walls that confine them. But a prison that I built, that I lived in for 40 plus years, that was a tough one. So, I say that, it's really just easy. It's just so easy. It's not work. There's nothing that we have to do. We can't earn, we can't earn His love. We can't work for His love. And it should be the same thing in a marriage or a relationship. There's nothing I can do to earn or work for or make it, better, the love better with Leslie. I just got to be there. I just got to do it. I just got to receive. Mainly the hard part is receiving, Once we run to receive, the more we receive, then the more we're able to give. And the more that we're able to give, the more we're able to receive. It's kind of like a bucket, I guess.
That's interesting you say that. It's for many people, it's so difficult to receive. You think it'd be easier than giving, but for a lot of people, it's not. It's the opposite.
Well, and that's probably because some of the things we received when we were younger are some of the things that we went through, and the things we received probably weren't very good, right?
Maybe, yeah.
And so we became sort of protective, or we put on a mask, or whatever. I mean, I lived a life on the outside that was perfect in every way, and inside I was miserable and lonely, And again, it was from having relationships at arm's length. Not able to receive, not wanting to receive, afraid to receive, sort of. So, I wish I had all of the answers, but some of the answers that I do have is there are a lot of facts out there. There's a lot of facts about my life, what I've done right, what I've done wrong, etc. Those are facts, but there's always one constant truth, and there's one constant truth, and I kind of just stick to that, and I've talked to you recently about, for years I was so sin conscious that it's such a black and white, here it is, and I was so conscious of sin that I had no idea what grace was, and you miss the whole point. If you miss grace, you kind of miss the whole point,
Yeah,
So.
no, absolutely. So, talk to us about passion. Besides I know you have this great relationship with your wife, and you're very successful in your business life. But what are you really, in your heart of hearts, what are you passionate about?
What I'm most passionate about is finding out what other people are passionate about, trying in whatever way, shape, fashion, or form to take the blessings that I have received and become a blessing to someone else. It's just, There's nothing more rewarding or fulfilling. We have a life mission statement basically that says, you tell me what your goals, your visions, your missions, etc., your passions are. Let me see how mine align with yours. Maybe, just maybe, I can come alongside of you and help you meet or exceed those goals and expectations. If I do that, that is what sort of fulfills my purpose, my mission, my goals, and my passion. And we are very passionate people. Probably too passionate, you know. So
I'm not sure you can be too passionate.
when you disagree,
Oh, well, maybe.
you disagree with somebody, you're really passionate. It's.
I guess
pretty
I
fun.
take that back.
There you
That's
go.
right.
That's right.
Well, you know, Hal, you're very open and transparent, and I love that about you. And I think that just the words that you've used today are going to be a real blessing to a lot of people that are watching.
I hope so. I really do.
Absolutely. But yeah, I want to just touch on one other thing, because I
Okay.
know you're just crazy about your grandkids.
Well, I am.
And you have how many?
I have 3.
Okay.
And the oldest is a 6-year-old little girl,
Uh-huh.
and her name is Dakota James Stevens.
Mhm.
And Dakota, unfortunately, she looks a lot like her papa, right? And they call me Papa. And so they'll say, God, are you a little Hal? And she says, no, he's a big Dakota. So to her, I'm Big Dakota, Papa. Then we have another little granddaughter that is Stella Lynn Raymond. And Stella is just, she is just something else. She's just about to turn 4 next month. And she is the most energetic, just outgoing. She's never met a stranger. She is just, she's pretty cool. And then recently, he just turned a year old. We have Rhett Raymond. It's
That's a good Southern name.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
my middle name is Everett, so my daughter named Rhett after his papa, and the other 2 are more Graham's girl. My wife is Graham, and they're more Graham's girls,
Uh-huh.
and they sort of they prefer being around Graham than they do Papa. Let's put it that way. It is Papa Graham, but it's more Graham. If I call them, they say, "Hey, Papa, what's Graham doing?" You know, that kind of thing. But Rhett is a Papa's boy, so it's kind of interesting to see that. But he's a
Very
pretty cool
cool.
little kid. Yeah.
Now, are they siblings or cousins?
Cousins, 2 are.
Mhm.
So Stella and Rhett are brother sister,
Okay.
and Dakota is the oldest, and she's their cousin. But they are almost they're almost brother and sister. They spend a lot of time together, so it's cool.
Well, you know, I know not every grandchild has the benefit of having wonderful grandparents. You know, there's things that happen in life, right? And there's a lot of grandchildren out there that just aren't like your 3, right? They don't have access to somebody that loves them like that. But let's do a little exercise.
Okay.
For those grandkids that are out there, talk to them.
Oh, wow, this would be kind of fun. Well, first of all, Dakota, if you're somewhere making fun of your Graham right now, you're going to get in some big trouble. And Stella, no, we can't come over tonight, baby. I'm sorry, but we're not still in the airplane, but we are several hours from home. And Rhett, I'll be there soon, son. Trust me. Yeah, so.
And you better be a good boy, Red.
He's the best
amazing.
baby ever. He really is the
He's how
best
old?
baby ever. He's 1.
Oh, he's 1, huh?
But he's the best baby. He's walking around doing some cool stuff. And
Yeah.
He's the best. He's the best baby. They were all 3 amazing babies, so it's pretty cool. So,
Have you taught him how to get a goatee yet?
No, his dad will take care of all that
Yeah.
stuff. So his dad's pretty cool. So his dad was a professional golfer for years,
Oh, wow.
and so hopefully he'll carry on the tradition and be a really good golfer. So
That's
maybe I'll learn
wonderful.
from him. So
That's
that's pretty
wonderful.
cool. Yes, sir.
All right, well, let me ask you something.
Okay.
What have you never told anybody? It's just you and me here. Tell me something that nobody knows about you.
I'm pretty much an open book. I don't
Yeah.
think there's a secret that I don't have a secret that no one knows about me.
How about one of your dreams or something that hasn't been fulfilled yet?
Hasn't been fulfilled. I wanted to be a helicopter pilot more than anything.
Really?
Yeah. So I did. That's something. A few people know that, but not many people know that. But I spent almost 6 years in the military, and I was a biomedical equipment technician, or a BMET. I repaired medical and dental equipment, but my first choice was to be a helicopter pilot, and I truly regret that I didn't get to do that. So I would love to be a pilot of some sort. That would be fun.
Well, it's not too late.
Nope, it's not too late. Never too late.
That's right. Now,
So who knows?
why do you think that was so important to you?
I don't know, maybe because I didn't know how to wait, and I wanted to go out and soar like an eagle without the waiting part, you know? So if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think it was sort of impatientness maybe, that I just wanted to get there a lot quicker and wanted to do that. I don't know, there was just something about flying and the freedom of flying that I always wanted to be able to do for myself. That was pretty cool. So.
Absolutely. Well, let's sort of switch gears here and talk a little more about Divine Wireless.
Divine
a brand
Wireless.
new company that it's just in the process. I think the website's not even finished yet, right?
Absolutely not. It's sort of an inception based on some divine appointments, and it actually came into inception because we just had so many. Stephen and I had so many divine appointments over the last couple of years that we go, maybe we're doing this all wrong. And we've been building people their own brands and helping them do certain things. And he's like, well, maybe we should build our own brand. And we just waited and waited and waited. What are we going to call it? And so in the last few weeks, we decided that we would do our own brand and that we would call it Divine Wireless, and that we would power any other people's brand that they wanted, but it would be powered by Divine. So
That's a name really is a unique name. It sort of fits into your life philosophy, doesn't it?
it does, divine appointments. I don't
Yeah.
think anything happens by chance, and I believe that there's nothing more important in our lives than the person that God has put in front of you at that moment. So
Absolutely.
that's kind of part of it. So.
Well, you mentioned Stephen, and I've had a chance to meet Stephen, amazing guy, and tell us about him. Tell us what are some of his
I think
incredible
Stephen's
strengths?
one of the most intelligent human beings that I've ever met, and I think one of his strongest assets is the asset to think outside of the box. He's done some. He's already achieved some amazing things. He's a young man. He's in his 30s. I'm in my 50s. So I just see in him so many things that I just don't have. He has strengths that I've never had, and he has wisdom way beyond his years. And he's just a go-getter. I mean, he truly is a go-getter. I don't think he's ever experienced a can't do this. I had the blessing of meeting his dad. His dad's an amazing engineer. He's created certain things. Speaking of helicopters, he created a system and invented a system to keep our helicopters from crashing in the first desert war.
There's
Desert
helicopters
Storm.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
helicopters.
Yeah.
And so his dad's an engineer. His sister's getting her PhD, I think, from Georgia Tech. So they're all just out of this world intelligent. So one of the things is that I think they're all doctors basically, except for Stephen, but he's just a brilliant young man, and down to earth, just a go-getter. And so it's pretty much an honor to call him a partner and a friend. He's a great friend. So
Absolutely. So Stephen and you are involved in this new company called, once again?
I think we named it Divine Wireless.
Divine
No, it's Divine
Wireless.
Wireless, and we're looking for some divine appointments.
Yep.
And the good news is that if we can't help you, then we hopefully can at least steer you in the right way where somebody else can, and hopefully we can help a lot of people.
Well, I like to do a lot of commercials for it because I know
like
you have
that.
to pay me for each time I say it. So I'm excited about that.
Can we call it? Can we do dinner and call it even? No, I'm just kidding. So
But it is so exciting.
It really is.
And I wish you well with that. I
Thank
think
you very much.
It's going to be just fabulous.
very
And
much.
it's really something that is pretty unique in that companies, especially network marketing companies, can
absolutely
latch a hold
unique.
of.
There's some there's been very few people who have who've tried and succeeded to make a comp plan out of the wireless business. A few
Right.
people have, and they did an amazing job. You might know some of them.
I might.
You could smile. But it is still a buzzword. Wireless is a big deal. Cellular is a big deal.
Yeah.
Everybody has to have one. It's a business tool that I don't know how we made it for so long without it. But especially if you're trying to be an independent business owner, it's not. It's one of those things where we're really not trying to get something from somebody. We're trying to get something to somebody and give them the tools to build a business that would be sustainable, that can make a difference. And, I have a very good friend. He said, if you can make a difference in somebody's kitchen, you'll make a difference for a lifetime. And so that's what we're trying to do. Let's just help give people the tools to make a difference in their kitchen, in their home, and who knows, we might might change that sort of destiny forever. So that's kind of what we're doing. So.
It is amazing, these the personal devices that people have that
Yes.
they just live on it. It's sort of taken, in some ways there's so many positive things, and then there's some negative things,
Yes.
because it's taken the place of real relationships. I think sort of have virtual relationships, but
Well, I think that again, maybe that's part of not being able to receive, right? The fear of rejection, not being able to receive. But I think we can break those walls down.
yeah.
I truly believe we can tear those walls down.
So from the inside view that you have, what do you see happening in the telecom business in the next 4, 5, 6 years?
Wow, it's changed so much in the last 4 or 5, 6
Yeah.
years. I have no idea what may happen in the next 4 or 5, 6 years. I do know that we as a people or as a race, we generally don't go backwards with communications. We go forward. Right. So if you think about the computing power of an iPhone or a Samsung, you think about the computing power that we hold in our hands. That once, is bigger than this room. One computer was bigger than this room.
Yeah.
The computing
Not
power
very
that we
long
hold
ago.
here, and it wasn't that long
Right.
ago. And in fact, it was in our lifetime.
Yes.
And so, what might it be? When we watched, cartoons, Dick Tracy, they talk to their watch, and
Right.
we're living that out. It's a reality right now. So where it might go in 5 years, I have no idea. But it'll be a fun journey. It really will be a fun journey.
Well, it's amazing. And pretty much all the information that's ever been
That's
throughout
right.
history is available to us on our personal device, right?
Fingertips.
Yeah.
It's available on our fingertips.
It is. It's sort of mind-boggling,
It
If we
is.
hadn't lived through it and seen it happen, as it's progressed.
That's right.
If you just plopped yourself into this century from a century ago, you wouldn't believe it.
It's funny. If we talked about my grandchildren a little while ago, and,
Yeah.
and they'll want to watch their little videos, so they'll have our phones, right?
Uh-huh.
And we'll be getting a text. You're probably texting or calling me. They'll just swipe you off, and so they don't want to miss anything on the
Right,
video.
right,
That's
right.
So if I'm not answering your call when you're calling, it's probably because Stella's got my phone or Dakota's got my phone, and she's just swiping it. Papa don't need that call. So, but yeah, it's amazing how they can use these devices,
Mhm.
and there is no fear, no trepidation. They just, they can do it.
And use them better than a big
And
person.
use it better than their great grandparents, for sure. More so than me in some cases.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
It is phenomenal.
It's pretty cool. So I don't know where it's going in 4 or 5 years, but I certainly do know that it's going to be an enjoyable adventure, and hopefully, again, it'll be, for some people, it'll be divine. Hopefully,
Yeah,
That's what I'm
absolutely.
saying. So.
Well, Hal, it's just such a pleasure to have you on the show, and you're such a blessing to a lot of people, and it's just I'm so excited just to know you.
Well, I'd call you. I am blessed to call you a dear friend, and I am so honored that some of the people you've introduced me to have become some dear, close friends of mine, and then I truly count that priceless. The old commercial that this costs so much, that's priceless, and so I thank you very much for having me here. I thank you for entertaining me when I come to town, and always taking my phone call, and it truly is an honor. And you are one of the many blessings of those divine appointments. And I was telling somebody yesterday about our meeting in Clemson, like, gosh, so long ago. That was so funny, and how we decided, hey, this ain't gonna work right now, but sure was nice meeting you.
Yeah.
But that was probably the best decision we ever made. So, but thank you very much for having me.
We've stayed in touch for all these years.
Absolutely, it's only grown. So
It's just going to get better. Well, we have about 1 minute left. What words of wisdom do you have to leave us with?
marry up, and if you're not called to be married or not called to have children, then don't do it. It's just that simple. I believe that the Word of God is pretty clear that the steps of the righteous man or woman are ordered of the Lord, and I just say if we'll just walk that out and trust. Last time we were in town, we were talking about, we see it as we just need to believe,
Mhm.
but we need to correctly translate that believe. More correctly for us would be trust. So I just say, hey, trust our Heavenly Father, and just get to know Him. Talk to Him just like I'm talking to you. It's not comfortable sometimes, but we just talk about it and just say, hey, there's the deal.
Yeah.
And just know that His love for us is so great. And I think about, I was such a Peter my whole life, bragging about how much I loved God, how much I loved God, how much I loved God. And I was so offended by people who bragged about how much God loved them. And then I looked at sort of Peter and John, And John was the guy that just, put his head on Jesus' chest and just bragged about how much Jesus loved him. And that's changed my life. I just want to brag. I mean, it's his great love for me, right, that has me in a position right now where I'll never be the same.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks again for being with us, and can't wait to have you back on.
Thank you, my
We'll
friend.
see you next week, same time, same station. Bye-bye, everybody.